Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. We'll be having quite interesting conversation with industry leaders. And today we have a very great personality here who's going to blow our mind with a lot of things that are happening in their industry. So our topic for today is going to be around small to medium enterprise payment technology, what's happening in the market today, what's happening in the market tomorrow. And we have with us today Nick Verdino from Taylor.ai. So stay tuned as we continue. My name is Bernard from Data Pandas Consulting. We hold this kind of interview discussions and podcasts with industry leaders. And today we have Nick with us. So we'll let Nick introduce himself and what his company is about.
Hi there, Bernard. Thank you very much for the intro. So as you said, Nick Verdino, I'm the founder of an organization called Taylor.io. And we focus on delivering payment technology for small to medium enterprises. It's a space where I don't think the industry is providing enough support to small to medium enterprises in order to help them compete with some of the larger players in the marketplace, particularly when it comes to e-commerce payments and generally online payments. My background, I've been in financial payment technology for the past 15 years. I've worked with small to medium enterprises. I've worked with large retailers throughout Europe. I've also worked with large acquirers and large banks to help them deliver solutions into the marketplace as well.
Wow, amazing. That sounds like a very rich background. That probably gives us a hint of why you are into helping small scale companies. So you did mention that these small scale companies are not really taken care of by the big players. What do you see are the biggest challenges that SMEs are facing in the payment space right now? I know you hinted on that, but can you take us a bit into that?
Yeah, of course. I think that there's essentially probably three areas. Two are kind of current, and then the next is about what's happening in the future. So when we talk about current issues, we speak to a lot of merchants every month. We've spoken to hundreds over the past year. And what we're finding is an awful lot of them still struggle to implement technology such as, and in my eyes, I will say simple technology in terms of Google Pay and Apple Pay. And this is a big issue for small to medium enterprises because a lot of consumers want to use those types of payment methods. It's all about driving frictionless payments. And what that means is that these businesses will be losing revenue because they don't provide the type of payment methods that consumers want to use. So it means it increases basket abandonment. As a business, you spend a huge amount of time and money in driving marketing, driving all these online funnels to ensure that you get to a payment page. And then if you don't have the right technology on the payment page, you are very likely to lose that customer. So that's one area is around UX and payment methods. What we also have as a current issue is around the support that the industry provides, but also the cost of these transactions. They're very expensive, and with the rise of costs in all other sectors of our businesses and industries, it's something that really doesn't help us. And then the final one, projecting out into the future, is looking at what is AI going to do to change our businesses? What is AI going to do to change e-commerce transactions and online payments? So there's kind of three areas that I think are really important for SMBs today.
Wow. Okay. So difficulty in implementation of these large scale solutions and also the support from these large scale solutions. So even as you've implemented it, the support comes at a cost, which is not favorable for SMEs. Well, that seems like a lot of challenges there. So you've worked on both sides of the payment industry. So what challenges have you seen in the last 3 to 5 years that are really shaping these SMEs checkout experience? Because you just hinted on that it can be abandonment. What have you seen in this last 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, so the last 3 to 5 years, it's about it. The conversation has been very much around frictionless payments. So when I talk about frictionless, if you remember, not too long ago, we obviously have to put our card numbers in, we have to put addresses in, and those types of things. What then happened is you had the likes of Google Pay and Apple Pay coming into place, which is driving real convenience at that checkout. And again, if you don't have it, it's something that you need to have in order to make sure more people are taking payments. Another challenge or another reality was the adoption of or a mandating of what we call 3DS, which is two-factor authentication. So I make a payment online, I then confirm it in my mobile phone. So that's been, and what has been really powerful about that is that's actually helped to drive down fraud. But again, there was a lot of challenges around that. So the story historically has been a lot about driving more frictionless payments. There's a huge amount of stuff that's going on in the future, but really making it simpler and simpler to pay online has been one of the biggest things over the past 3 to 5 years.
Well, for personally myself, when I'm checking out, I want something that's frictionless. I want to be able to press my button and then I'm checked out. So what do Taylor solution meet? How does Taylor solution, meet the current needs of the UK based and obviously global based SME differently from the legacy providers that we're talking about?
Yeah, so the cool thing that we're able to do, obviously, we're smaller than some of these organizations, and we're built on more modern technology. So some of the things that we can do is implement um, some of these technologies much faster. So we essentially mandate Google Pay, Apple Pay across our merchants, and we make sure that they can deliver it very quickly. We also look at we really look at that checkout experience to make sure that we're driving those frictionless experiences. We've just released a new module, for example, on WooCommerce, which is about simplification of your payment experience. A couple of other things that we're doing is very much around data. So we are looking at how we are able to collect data for our customers on behalf of our customers around their consumers. And we can start to look at who those consumers are, what demographics they are, what geographies they are, etc. So we can provide a lot of data, which is very useful for marketing back to our customers. And that's payment data, which our merchants typically wouldn't be able to have access to. And then what we're also doing is looking at, again, to that point, one of the things that we're doing is looking at how we drive adoption of AI practices within our merchants as well. There's a huge amount of noise in our industry around agentic commerce, where now I go into my chatbot and I make a payment. I research a product. I then select a product, and then how do I pay for that product? So there's lots of stuff that's going on. Google are releasing things, ChatGPT or OpenAI are releasing things, etc. We're very close to monitoring that to see how we can ensure that our customers are beneficiaries of that as well.
Wow. So you guys are doing a lot. So you did mention about AI as one of the challenges, but then you also hinted on it as one of the opportunities when you
Yeah.
just mentioned about agentic sort of purchasing and stuff. What do you see the future of AI? I mean, you touch on both sides as a challenge and also as opportunity for SMEs and how
Mhm.
Taylor is also helping.
Yeah. So when I talk about it as a challenge, if we have a look, I like history, right? So I like to look at history and how things repeat
Yeah.
themselves. And if we look at what happened in the early 2000s with regards to the internet, so before that, small to medium enterprises were fundamentally shop fronts or in-person businesses, right? And then what we had is we've had the rise of the internet and the rise of e-commerce. So what that has meant is that certain early adopters have hyperscaled. Others have really, really struggled. And so we've actually seen a decline in the high street quite
Right.
significantly. It's obviously very public. It's all over the news, all these types, and has been for a very long time. Um, the high street probably isn't ever going away, but it's gone up and it's come back down with the rise of the internet. And I think what we're going to see over the course of the next 5 to 10 years is we're going to see this, what we call agentic commerce, becoming a third outside of social media. Maybe social media is the third, but the third or the fourth essentially channel that you have to drive business through. So a lot of people still have stores. That number has reduced. So there's a huge amount of people that are online. I think it's around 30% of all payments are made online in our space in the B2C market. And then what you have is you have this third rise, which is agentic commerce. So that will create new channels of opportunity. So some of the people that adopt it early will really scale significantly. But then a lot of people who don't adopt it will see traffic reducing. And there's already trends that traffic to websites is reducing because I'm not doing my SEO, let's say, for agentic commerce where a lot of people are searching. So there's some of the challenges, but within that in itself is the opportunity if you adopt it early enough to really drive to scale your business if that's what you're looking to do.
Amazing. So Taylor collects the data from the payment system, from your system. And then through that, you have that opportunity to embed these AIs into.
So yeah. So I'm not saying we're there right now. It's what we're looking at for the future, right? So today, what Taylor does is it helps online businesses. So if I've built my shop online, we do the checkout, right? So we make sure that you fully optimize that checkout. Google Pay, Apple Pay, alternative payment methods like buy now, pay later, like Klarna, for example, and new methods such as pay by bank or open banking. So that's what we do today. But then how do we're working in order to be able to drive that through the likes of Gemini and ChatGPT so that in the future, our merchants are able to maximize the opportunity that is driven from AI, from AI and the chatbots and agentic commerce.
Got you. Got you. So you are right position or preparing the grounds for that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Okay. So you did mention of open banking. So
Mm.
open banking, embedded finance, orchestration, are these real opportunities for SMEs or they're just buzzwords? What do you think?
So I'll take them one at a time. I'm going to start with orchestration. I think that so orchestration as a concept started about 7 years ago, 7 years ago. And the original thought behind it is very much around how do I route my traffic to the appropriate, what we call acquirer, so processing bank essentially. For example, if I'm a multinational business and I have a website and on my website, someone comes to pay, that person's from the UK, but I'm an American business. That means that traditionally the value of that transaction or the price of that transaction is going to be very, very high. Whereas if I can route or orchestrate that transaction to a UK acquirer, then the transaction cost will be reduced because it's a domestic transaction. And so depending on where I am in the world, I route the traffic to the appropriate acquirer so I can reduce my costs quite significantly. So that was fantastic. There's a lot of airlines that are doing this now. There's a lot of multinational organizations that are doing this now. So where orchestration very much has been a buzzword within the industry for a very long time. From an SMB point of view, I don't think SMB should be focused on it. I think that their suppliers should be focused on it. So Taylor as an organization should be pushing orchestration to our customers as a de facto standard. It shouldn't be something that our customers are actually looking to implement themselves. We should, as the provider, should be enabling it so that they can reduce their costs and actually focus on what really matters to them, and which is obviously building and growing their business. When we look at embedded finance is super interesting. It's a very broad term. So one of the things is around embedded payments. So how do we make payments more accessible? Where do you embed it? How do you make it more accessible for consumers to pay or for a business to pay you? These types of things. I think it's really, really important. But also embedded finance also means how do I give better access to merchants around credit and debt facilities, whether it's loans and things like this. So it means that I don't always have to go to my bank. It means that actually my payment provider, I can go into there and I can raise a loan of 10 grand from a different bank through my payment provider or through a different technology, whether it's my if I'm a property company, maybe it's through my property management solution that I can raise those solutions. So embedded finance is about creating greater access to capital and different types of payments, which I think is super, super important to enable growth for a lot of merchants. And then finally, when you look at the concept of open banking, again, a hugely broad topic that cascades over data. It cascades over risk assessment of an individual. It also cascades over payments. So I'm going to reference it as pay by bank.
Yep.
And pay by bank is a very important topic for the future because it helps in a number of ways. One is about potentially reducing fraud for merchants. Another is about cost, so it helps reduce cost potentially. So there's and it also enables you to get more data. So there's this huge ability for it to deliver new capabilities to small to medium enterprises. I don't think we do it particularly well today. So there's still a very long journey for the payments industry to go on in order to make pay by bank and open banking one super relevant for merchants and consumers, and thus actually a scalable technology.
Wow, that's in depth. It's a lot of explanation.
Sorry.
No, but I think it's amazing. But these terms, I mean, I think you've broken them down so well for our listeners. And thank you for that. So how do you see the role of developers evolving in this space, especially when it comes to monetizing payment integration? So you mentioned that the onboarding of those, the other big players out there, it's kind of a big challenge for some SMBs. So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do you see the role of developers evolving in this space, especially when it comes to monetizing this payment integration, particularly for Taylor as well?
Yeah, so developers are central to the implementation of technology, and they are also central to making sure that it works properly, is up to date, et cetera, et cetera. So they have been central when it comes to e-commerce payments since the beginning of e-commerce time, right? And they will continue to be so. Industry, there's particular providers that have developed fantastic development tools for developers. We can probably all name one of the biggest ones. Challenge has been for a lot of other organizations to catch up with that. So one thing that Taylor's doing is over the course of the next year, we will be building our focus is on consumer and merchant experience and developer experience as well, because without developers, it's just payments important.
Amazing. So you're actually taking care of the developers, taking care of the end users, and obviously the consumer as well.
Yeah, yeah. And it's about, for me, the word is simplification. It's all about simplification. It's all about making everything easier across that value chain. The consumer needs to be able to pay easily. The merchant needs to be able to collect payments and have the correct type of payments on their site easily. And the developer needs to be able to implement it and access those things easily as well.
Amazing. Right. Let's give some value back to our listeners. Hopefully, there's somebody who is a small, medium scale business and then is listening. So for SMEs owners listening now, what is the one thing that they should be doing right now to future proof their payment stack?
So there's a huge debate within the industry about what's important coming, right? So the first thing that you have to do is you have to understand your consumer base and who your customers are, and you have to understand how they pay. So if I'm in the UK, I typically pay by debit card or credit card online, and I most of the time will use Google Pay and Apple Pay. So the first thing you have to do is you need to understand how your consumers pay, and you need to ensure that you are delivering those payment methods. Otherwise, you will lose money.
How do you find out? How do they find out that?
It's a good question. Obviously, you can do research. You can probably ask AI to help you out with that as well. But you can do research. You can speak to us, and if you're an online retailer, we understand how merchants are paying today. Again, very simple: Google Pay, Apple Pay, credit card, debit card are the main methods. If you are in retail, then buy now, pay later is actually very important as well. If you are, for example, within hospitality, buy now, pay later, not as applicable. People don't typically use it as much, although some people want to. You also need to understand whether PayPal needs to be accepted. So who does use that? So one, you build your site, you make sure you implement the basics, Google Pay, Apple Pay, Visa debit, etc. You can then should be able to implement relatively easily PayPal. And you can test and you can see who is paying, isn't paying. As long as your provider is able to provide that data to you easily, then you can actually switch things on, switch things off, and test as well.
So that is where Taylor can also gather that kind of information.
100%, yeah, 100%. We've obviously got a number of merchants now that, one, we do the research, but two, we can see the reality across the different merchants that we use today, and we are able to aggregated data as to how consumers pay.
Brilliant. And finally, where can listeners go to learn more about Taylor or get started with your platform?
So the simple thing is you can come to the website. So website is www.taylor, so TAYLR.io. So we've dropped the O because we're obviously a tech firm. And so you can go on there, you can check out the site, and then you can create an account immediately, and you can start testing within half an hour, different transactions and these types of things. So please feel free to do that. And then you can also, if everybody wants to, you can drop us an email on hello@taylor.io as well. And then you can follow us on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn. I'm promising myself I would do more regular updates and posts about what's happening in the industry and the trends that we're seeing as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I mean, I think that's one of the debates or one of the challenges that we see in forums for small, medium-sized companies is, maybe you can see that they're having challenges with maybe PayPal, Stripe, and that kind of payment system. But now we have somebody, we have a company who is looking after small, medium-sized companies. Everyone, you have an option now. Have a look around, talk to Taylor, and let's see how best they can help you in the way that you are moving. Okay. So in your final words, just for the general audience, I know I said finally, but your final words for general audience.
Final words. So my final words are: if you're looking to scale your business and you're investing a lot into websites, into your product flows and your basket flows, trying to reduce basket abandonment, etc., make sure you do not forget the very last mile, which is your checkout and your payments, because they will impact your growth. Obviously, if you want to talk to people about it, then we would love to help.
Thank you. So do not forget about the last mile. That is where you don't want to leave money on the table. So our guest today has been Nick Verdino from Taylor, which is TAYLR. There's no O there. LR. Obviously, it's not a seamstress company. It is an IT based company. So yeah, and our topic has been small to medium enterprise payment technology, and we've had so much insight and so much understanding of what's going on, what the future like, and how a frictionless checkout really help small medium sized businesses. So yeah, you can keep listening to our future podcast and our previous podcast. We keep bringing you industry insight from industry leaders like Nick today, and then we keep sharing insight with you. And you can also see businesses that are out there that are doing amazing work to make the life easier for businesses, for consumers, and for everybody at large. So it has been a Bida Pandas podcast today. Myself is Bernard. I'm your host for today. Please subscribe and join us in our next episode. Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us on board.